Good morning, parents, and welcome to Advocates for Angels Monday Morning Facebook Live. I'm Valerie Abrahamian, the IEP Navigator, and I help parents get the IEP and special education program their child needs to thrive, both in school and in life after high school. So I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and had a little break and a little vacation. It was really great for me. I was able to slow down and not work for a couple days. So that was great. So now we're back to our situation of where we are today in education, particularly special education. And today's Facebook Live is entitled As Schools Flip Flop Between Closing, Opening, and Shutting Down Again, Where is the Concern About Our Children's Education and Mental Health? So I think I've been talking about over the couple last few weeks about kids just really suffering. Kids are being put in hospitals. They're being put on medication. Escalation in behaviors and maladaptive and self-injurious behaviors, cutting, even attempted suicide. And it's, just getting worse. And so what can we do as parents in this situation? So parents, I've talked about the bureaucratic institution before in the past, but I'm going to go over it again in this video because I think it's extremely important to talk about. So, because so many parents don't understand. The bureaucratic institution of the government educational system is that it is a hierarchical system set up to having the administrators at the top, along with the teachers union, along with the school board, and they run the show. And so it's about the political agendas of those three components of the government agency of the school district that makes the decisions. And they are working to serve the system. So the school district, school board is working to serve their agenda. The administrators at the school site level up in the running the show in special education and the school district have their agendas. And then the teachers union, of course, has their agenda, which is to protect the teachers and to support the teachers. It is not to support and protect the children. So that is what the institution is. And then it runs down from there. So from those three components, it runs down to the administrators at the district office in special education at the district level, then over to the school site level, the administrators there who are the principals and assistant principals, down to the teachers teaching in the classroom, down to our children who are at the bottom of the pyramid and the least important or the least considered, and they are the clients, they are the consumers, they are the stakeholders in this whole situation. But that because it is a bureaucratic institution, it is not run to serve the student. It's run to serve the system. And that is the bottom line. And so IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is a federal law, has never been enforced because it's the government enforcing the government, right? So even though IDEA is an incredible, amazing federal law that protects us as parents and children's rights to get an education, to be served with equality, to be served and have the opportunity to be in general education classes and be exposed and have the opportunity to learn general education curriculum, along with all the other supports and services mandated to be provided to those kids in order for them to be able to be successful in accessing the general education curriculum. It's never been enforced since 1974 when President Ford enacted IDEA into law. It has never been enforced and it's never been fully funded. So it's never really worked up till this time. Now we find ourselves in COVID when everyone is shut down, including general education children. And special ed kids have been completely left by the wayside. They have been disregarded. IDEA has been disregarded. If we thought it was pretty bad before, but at least we had federal law to stand on, and when parents were able to get advocates to help them in advocating for their child, or hire attorneys to force the hand of school districts to give the child what they need to learn. Now it's pretty much going is almost moot point, because they're just using the pandemic as an excuse and saying, well, how can we possibly do that? We're in a school shutdown. We're in a virtual schooling model, blah, 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 all the excuses. So we got to be truthful here, and we have to open our eyes and see what is happening here and what does the future hold. Because what the future holds, in at least the near future, if schools do reopen and they do, our kids are able to go back to school, we know what is waiting for them, and that is all the rules, all the regulations that our health department is incurring upon every school district to follow, which I think most of you know what those look like. I don't want to take time going over all that, but it pretty much looks like kind of like a military system, and following the social distancing, the masks, the temperature taking, the going down one way on a high hallway, even if they're allowed to go out to the playground or at a lunch or recess, they have to still be social distanced, and so on and so forth. So that's what it's going to look like. Now, how our kids with special needs are going to be able to internalize this, and what's that going to continue to do to their mental health, to their anxiety levels, to their social skills growth, to it just goes on and on. How are they ever going to learn? Any child, really. How are they going to learn under those circumstances? And what is this doing to our kids' health and well-being and mental health when they're already suffering as it is now? So what my suggestion to parents is that let's this, I'm going to give a positive now. I gave a lot of, that was a lot of not so uplifting information. So now here's a positive. The good thing about COVID and school shutdowns this. Parents got to know their children and their educational levels and their academic achievement levels, because parents had to be more involved and some had to even sit next to their child every day and prompt their child and actually serve as the one-on-one aid for their child in order for their child to receive the virtual academic instruction from the teachers and complete any kind of learning or complete assignments or whatever it was, that depending on what class it was that they were working on. So parents know now so much more about their child's IEP, about what the IEP says. They got out the IEPs, they read the IEPs, they looked at the goals, and they looked at the accommodations. They familiarized themselves much more with the components of the IEP and how it relates to their child's education, how it relates to how their child learns. And their eyes were opened, and they became much more aware and educated on the IEP, and they also became much more aware and educated on their child's levels of where they are with math, with reading, with writing, with how they follow directions, with how independent they are or aren't, how many prompts they need to get started. All these different components of education that we wouldn't even know, because we've never been in a situation like this where we would have to sit next to our child when they're learning. They're at school every day. We can't go in, sit next to them at school. They're at school. So this is the positive that came out of COVID. And so with that, what we can do, parents, is you can sit down and you can actually start making a list. And I recommend all parents do this now, because as we move forward, it's going to be very important for you to know your child even better than you do now, and be able to verbalize and be able to articulate what your child needs to learn. And so you're going to want to write down what your child's strengths and weaknesses are. you're going to want to become an expert on your child's disability. So a lot of parents, they're not even sure exactly what their child's area of deficit or what their child's diagnosis is. So, you need to find out what that is and what the eligibility criteria of the IEP of your child's being eligible for an IEP, which is on the front page of your IEP. It'll say disabilities criteria, or something about disabilities eligibility for an IEP, and it will have a primary and a secondary, and that will be your child's eligibility reason that they are given an IEP. And in terms of educational labels that they put on kids. And so know that, but become an expert in how does ADHD affect your child? How does the diagnosis of autism or autism spectrum disorder affect your child's learning? What are their strengths and weaknesses? And then those are, then the learning disabilities, auditory processing, visual processing, cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, all the other emotional disturbances or anxiety disorders, whatever it may be for your child. Start researching that. Start, join groups and become an expert, and then look at how does that diagnosis affect my child's learning, and what do they need to learn. And so, do they learn better in a group? Do they learn better one-on-one? Do they learn better with visuals? Do they learn visually? Are they a visual learner? Are they an auditory learner? What are their strengths, and how do they learn? So, because parents, we are going to have to create a new educational system. And that's what's going to be occurring, because the educational system is dismantling, along with lots of other government systems is dismantling. So if you are a parent who is forward looking and is wanting to make sure your child is educated, unless you're planning on completely homeschooling your child. But if you want to create another way, another system, a good system, a better system that's going to serve all kids properly, then we need to start thinking about what that's going to look like. And we definitely know that it's not going to be used standardized testing, because standardized testing does not reveal the potential or the cognitive abilities of kids with disabilities. It just doesn't, and it never has. And that was the foundation of how the bureaucratic institution of the special education system determined the development of an IEP before, which was from standardized test scores. So becoming the expert for your child, and then parents beginning to start thinking about and creating what would a system or a education look like for my child that would meet the needs of my child, that an environment in which my child could actually learn in. Does my child need to learn better social skills and be able to develop their speech and language better? Or does my child need to be able to learn how to follow directions better and be more independent? Does my child need to have much more hands-on and tactile and multisensory type of approach of teaching? All of those different things. So, educating yourself, becoming more aware, and being able to speak on behalf of your child, because that's what advocacy is, parents. Advocacy is, the term advocate means to speak on behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves. And as parents, are tasked with the obligation to speak on behalf of our children, because they cannot speak on behalf of themselves. And so and I'm really speaking to the parents who can hear this and can take on and internalize that responsibility and start taking the steps to start learning how to speak on behalf of your child, because that's where we're going. every parent's going to have to learn to speak on behalf of their child moving forward if you want your child to receive an education. And so I want you to start thinking about that, start making a list of those things I talked about in this video. And we can do it together, parents. We can stand up for our children and their education. They're amazing. They have gifts and talents to offer the world. They are intuitive and creative, and they bring us back into our hearts and back into love. So many of them have very high vibrational frequencies, and they are important. They're not second-class citizens. And so the moms who can hear this and want to learn how to stand up and start finding your voice and start learning how to advocate for your child, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, parents. So not just moms, dads too. So thank you guys, and please like and share this video if you found value in it and you think other parents many other parents, moms are looking for answers and looking for ways to help their children. And take care, guys. I will see you next Monday on my next Facebook Live. Take care.